Thank you very much, Chair Rosendale and Ranking Member Sherfless McCormick, and thank all our witnesses for being here. It seems as we go through this information that we think of AI, but AI in and of itself is not necessarily a source of release of private healthcare information or PII. That simply having electronic or digitization of data can lead to leaks. And often it seems the human link, having worked in the healthcare field for numerous years, may be the weakest link. So I think as we identify potential pitfalls, that we have to remember that we have to have the best cybersecurity and safety and access to care, and keep all of those in mind as we juggle through this. As a clinician, I understand the value AI can bring to the practice of medicine. It can help with everything from the diagnosis of disease to transcription of clinical notes to the development of a response back to a patient, from repetitive machine learning, and from creating staffing plans to coaching health behaviors. I can also see the potential as the PACT Act is unveiled, and as we're still determining toxic substances, that we can identify and prevent and form causation or causality from toxic substances, which we've only scratched the surface on. So this integration, I think, is really important, and we see the value, but we also understand that there are challenges ahead. Ms. Tooth, thank you for testifying before the committee today. In your written testimony, you state that the VA must be vigilant in creating proper safeguards around veteran data privacy and security. In your opinion, how can the VA implement AI and other algorithmic technologies to increase efficiency with both administrative items and the delivery of care without compromising patient safety and privacy?
So one thing to keep in mind is that you are dealing with a closed loop, which I think a lot of us, when we think about artificial intelligence right now, are really fascinated with the learning language models, the LLM, which is a lot of data going out from a lot of sources. You have a very finite, it's a lot of terabytes of data, but it's a finite area where you can actually do some amazing sandbox studies that you can't do in the open public. So I would think, I'm not a clinician, but the whole idea of what you could do in an environment like the Veterans Affairs on medicine is very amazing, as long as we make sure that those guardrails are in place, that we do have the terms of use. I call it policy through procurement. We make sure that those are candidly fines. You get outside your remit, you're going to see probably a major financial fine for doing that. It'll keep you inside the guardrail. And then knowing ahead of time what it is you're trying to discover, so you keep within the sandbox where you're looking to participate. So they're not overly complicated. It's just that you have to actually commit to them and make sure that the information doesn't go outside of where it's supposed to go, and you do with the information what you say you're going to do.
Mr. Worthington, does the VA use the LAION data set to train AI?
I am not familiar with that. Dr. Altrovitz, are you familiar with that one? We may have to take that back for the record unless...
We can certainly take that back to the record, but there isn't like one approach. There isn't a standardized approach of doing that at this time.
The reason for asking that question, a 2022 Ars Technica article found that the LAION data set contained pictures that originated from medical records, which made their way into the data set without authorization from patients who were the subjects. Now, as a clinician and a physician who has published, you have to get permission from patients to use their images in any publication that you would utilize. So how does the VA assure that PHI and PII, whether images or text, are not leaking into publicly available data sets either by accident, omission, or purposefully, especially through contractors and their business associates who have access to data used to deliver or assist the VA in delivering healthcare?
Thank you for the question, Congresswoman. We have a I would say, robust existing privacy policy on all vendor and IT contracts that really is explicit about what our partners are allowed to do with VA data and not allowed. And so any time we are allowing a vendor access to VA data, it's usually just it is under the strict confines of what that contract is for. And my colleagues could talk more about the specifics, but we would be seeking to avoid cases where veteran data or really any of our data would wind up in some general purpose model that it was not expected to be.
Well, certainly if an employee can be terminated in the healthcare system for talking about a patient in an elevator, I would think that sanctions, loss of contract, and especially financial sanctions would be appropriate. Mr. Chair, I'd like to enter into the record the Ars Technica article I mentioned from 9/22/21.
Without objection.
Thank you, and I yield.